begin our second session. Kindly sign the document here. Those who have not signed, the participants of this program, please see that all is signed. Thank you.
Shall we begin? Christian spirituality, from wholeness right up to mysticism, can be comprised in 4 statements. Matthew 5:48, when Jesus summed up the whole Sermon on the Mount and said, "Be ye perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect." Perfect means wholeness, W-H-O-L-E-N-E-S-S, 5:48, wholeness. Then in John 10:10, he said, I came to give life and give to the fullness. And then again, John 15:11, he said, your life is incomplete. I came to give completeness. And then finally, in John 17:21, in the most beautiful prayer, the invitation of Jesus, he gave his final vision for the world, for the universe, that they all may be one. And all includes not only all human persons, the environment, the planets, the universe. And that goes very well with the new cosmology. Very well. So wholeness, fullness, completeness, oneness. That oneness is mysticism. So from the beginning right up here, that's Christian depth spirituality, right up to mysticism. So personally for me, having struggling, searching, reading, reflecting, I have come to the conclusion, whether you agree or not, that's your problem, but my conclusion. Speak of a universal spirituality, the time has come. The time has come to speak about the universal spirituality that will transcend all organized and or institutionalized religions. Not discard, transcend. For me, that seems the way forward for the 21st century. Out of all the people, John Paul II, when he met the contemplatives in an audience, contemplatives of various congregations, he said this: while philosophies and theologies will continue to divide the world, the contemplatives will unite the world. Because the contemplative experience of every religion is the same. When they put those experiences in words, naturally we use our own jargon. Christians will use Christian jargon, Buddhist jargon, all that. So we feel that we are part. Experience is the same. That oneness, mysticism. It was also repeated afterwards by Joan Chittister, the Benedictine nun, who writes a lot. The contemplatives who can unite the world. Not politicians. Not even religious leaders, the so-called religious leaders. They are poles apart. So if we are talking about any unity in the future, among any, within a congregation, or in the country, or outside, I am fully convinced the way forward is contemplation. Contemplative life. Having said that, I also must say this. I don't know about you, but I misunderstood contemplation while I was growing up in the seminary. Totally misunderstood. And nobody bothered to explain it either. I thought that contemplation was meant for some guys who are inside the monasteries, behind those huge walls. Contemplation is a call to everybody. Everybody. Every human person. What is contemplation? Or what is mysticism? Both Bernard Barnum as well as William Johnston simply defined it as not coming, being. Both William Johnston as well as Bernard Barnum, two people who wrote quite a lot on conversion and mysticism, being in love. No religion opposes that. No philosophy or theology will oppose that. Why I am saying that here is, if you walk the faith journey, as I have been describing, that's where you walk towards. So the journey is an ongoing process. The word process came from physics, and we are using it now today in spirituality. You must have heard of Raymond Panika, the famous Indian philosopher and theologian. He said this: fellowship arises because we all live by faith, in spite of the diversity of our beliefs. Correctly said. We may have diversity of belief system, but the faith experience is the same. And that's the fellowship I was talking about. That's the quotation from John Paul II. Is that contemplaries will unite the world, while philosophies and theologies will continue to divide the world. So comparing our vocation to faith journey, this is a very important statement. A vocation, especially as a call. A call is universal. A call is universal to all human persons. A vocation is particular, like a lifestyle, like an oblate, or a Franciscan, or a Benedictine, or an AC, or a chef, or a chair, or whatever you have. A vocation, especially as a call, is discovered in an ongoing conversation. What is his ongoing conversation? Your ongoing conversation is your prayer. Not vocal prayer. Silent prayer. Absolute silence. In a vocal prayer, you won't have that dialogue. There you listen. And in this ongoing conversation is my ongoing conversion. So the faith journey is an ongoing conversation, and because it is an ongoing conversation, is an ongoing conversion experience. Changes all the time. Constant changes, constant growth. The human person, by the very its nature, is called to change and to grow. The new science says, new sciences put all the sciences together. Margaret Wheatley, I don't know where the quotation is there, but I don't know where it comes. She said very beautifully, all living organisms, when they engage with nature or the environment, change and grow, including the human beings. So growth is part and parcel of life as God given to us. But we have a will to block it. That's how we have a will to block it, not grow, stagnate. Why? Security. Security is the biggest problem in this game. Nobody wants to be on a plane all the time flying. No one. You want to reach a destination. Nobody wants to get on a train and travel all the time. You want to reach a destination. That's normal human tendency. But in spirituality, there is no stopping. And that's why it's difficult. Not arriving at a destination. Constant changes. So what is ongoing conversation? You listen in silence. Deep silence. I make a statement. The depthness of your faith can be gauged by the depthness of your silence. I'll repeat that. The depthness of your faith as journey, can be gauged by the depthness of your silence. Silence is very difficult, especially in modern society. Modern society wants noise, needs noise. So to go into the deep silence, you meet God. Because God knows, unfortunately, only one language, and that is silence. So if you want to connectedness, you want to connect with the God within, silence is a scenic point. Coming down from the desert fathers and desert mothers, coming from the tradition of the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and all those old literature, no change. Without that kind of a silence that can be created in our personal life, we can't talk to contemplation or mysticism or even depth spirituality. So in that silence, you listen. Listen. Some 342 times in the Bible, the word listen comes. Listen. Listen to the core. There is revealed to you. And respond. Listen and respond. Every time you listen and respond, a conversion takes place. And that's the conversation, and that's the conversion. And that's the faith journey. That's the faith. That's my faith journey. So faith is a journey, a lifelong journey in relation to oneself, to others, and to God. This is a very Christian aspect. You don't walk your journey alone. It's always with others and God. Intra, inter, and God. The one and the only commandment of Jesus is that. So it was not just a statement of Jesus. When the lawyer asked him that famous question, what is the greatest commandment? It's a very difficult question. It's a question to catch him, he asked. Because in the Torah there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rules and regulations. To pick one, he would be caught. But he summed it up beautifully by saying, there's only one commandment, and that is love. What kind of love? Love yourself, love your neighbor, and love God. And not simply love, with all your mind. That's where the difficulty comes. With all your heart. In other words, unconditional on your part as well. That's where the difficulty comes. Ordinary love is easy. With that full unbrokenness. That commandment is the only one. So the question arises, when did this journey begin? This faith journey. Is it at baptism?
With an encounter.
Pardon?
With an encounter experience.
Which encounter?
Encounter.
Is it at birth? Is it at conception? The journey begins at conception. The hierarchical church will say at baptism. The wording is okay. That means once you enter the door, the porta fidei, the doors. But the real journey begins at conception. Enough research has been done today with prenatal psychology to prove more than that. That already the mother's moods and mother's feelings and emotions can affect the baby in the womb. Okay, we need a womb sign. Certainly at birth. That's what I want to show you. It's a here the faith journey begins. That's what most of us would say. It begins with baptism. These three people are important here. Erik Erikson and Jan Piaget, who talked about cognitive development, and Fowler, who talked about faith development. The first virtue, or the first struggle, or the first development, better word is, the first developmental task of a baby is trust versus mistrust. The bonding that takes place between mother and the child is extremely important because that's where the trust begins. That's where the trust begins. If something has gone wrong in that trust level, more mistrust is created, then there is no hope. No hope for the future for the child. So you can imagine in our local context with the war, how many children would have been seriously affected by this. Look at your own life. Maybe most of us here present are blessed with a father and a mother, blessed with a home, blessed with the basic structure they gave us to grow. I don't know whether all of us, but most of us, I guess, have that great gift. But if some bonding has gone wrong with the mother and the child, you are going to have a serious problem with trust, not only in your grown-up life, also in your trust in God. A lot of people say we trust in God, but that is only a belief. They don't. There is something called functional atheism. Have you heard of atheism? What is atheism? Pardon? What is atheism really? Atheists are people who deny the God that you have created. In other words, they are rejecting or denying the God that we have created in our dogmas and sacraments and that kind of thing. But there are no atheists in the real sense of the word, because unless he has totally or she has totally deprived of love. So, what is functional atheism? Most of us fall into that. Functional atheism is, I believe in God, but for the rest of my life I go about as God doesn't exist. It's all my power, my authority, my talents, my achievement. It takes over. So actually, if we examine our life, as I do mine, there are lots of moments functional atheism is present, although I didn't recognize. I believe in God in the chapel. The rest of the time I go about. And then we come back and say His will of God. Cheapest phrase that we abuse in our Christian life and especially religious life is will of God. For everything is will of God. There's hot sun today. There's heavy rains today. And the worst is 350 passengers on a flight and it crashed. 50 passengers saved, others perished. What do we say? Yeah. Now we told them which is will of God, those who died or those who survived. We have used that phrase very abusively in the church, especially in religious life. For everything we say will of God. And some congregations I know, they have a discernment letter they write for your house, which is also will of God. I'll come to the will of God later if there is time. So this is where it's extremely important. Trust versus mistrust. That's where the bonding takes place. So the developmental task of the first stage in the psychosocial developmental theory of Erikson is trust. The developmental task of the final stage, according to Erikson, that's very interesting, is also trust. The very first stage, as the baby is born, we are talking about trust versus mistrust. And that trust issue runs through all the developmental stages, and the final stage is also trust. How? The final stage, you willingly surrender yourself to God. That surrendering is an absolute trust. Without knowing what I am surrendering myself into. What is surrendering, by the way? I am very particular about words. Because people use words and I repeated them and I found there is no meaning in those words. So I am very particular in finding the real meaning of it. What is actually surrendering? We use in religious life all the time. No? Pardon? How do I surrender my will?
Totally handing over.
Pardon?
Totally handing over of one's will.
Who is that? Yes, sister?
Totally handing over of one's will.
What is this handing over?
Having no power or authority over what I possess.
In other words, you can be led. Yes, that's one explanation. Good one. In other words, I can be led by someone in total trust. Another way of looking at it.
Very constant, attentive listening to God who is calling you constantly.
And what happens in that constant calling? You're right.
Then, in the call, I sort of empty myself and make
Correct.
myself.
That's the word, empty. The more you empty yourself, you come to the core of what is known as nothingness. Both in Buddhism and in Christianity, the word emptiness is very important. And Buddhism has highly developed that word than Christianity. Highly developed, very complicated. So you go on letting go. The modern word is letting go, the old word is detachment, same meaning. The more you let go, especially power, as someone said, power is the worst thing. The most difficult thing for human persons to let go is power, control. Very subtle, but very strong. The whole political crisis in religious life and the conclave and the pope and all that is power. Nothing but power, control. When Rome says, and also, God is with you, the remotest village has to say, and with your spirit. Right or wrong English? Actually, it's wrong English. Translation from Latin, et cum spiritu tuo. But it's a dichotomy. That's where dichotomy number again. When you divide the man into spirit and matter, it's dichotomy. Every morning we are starting with a dichotomy. Why it came from? Can you believe this? Can you believe blind obedience beyond this? This is where we are. Anyway, that also we say below. And some other escape policies. So what is surrendering? Very important. When you let go one by one, you can't let go everything all overnight. If you let go everything overnight, you end up in uncle. That's the basket case. As you let go, power is the most difficult thing. Holding people, and controlling yourself. And let you go, you come to what is known as nothingness. But that nothingness is very difficult to explain. That's where we are caught. In that nothingness, there is fullness. That's what Jesus said. I came to give life and give to that full. In that nothingness, you surrender. The word we are using, surrender, is a very weak word, but that's the word that is available for us. But you are there. That's what the mystics will call it. At that moment, you are being in love. In total. So the final act of surrender, as we have in the life of Jesus at Calvary. The second comes to autonomy versus shame and doubt. It's a very important stage in life. The being, the purpose in life. Initiative versus guilt, the purpose. So these have been found now, looking backwards. So Erickson produced these in the 60s and 70s. Now going back, we are discovering a lot of good things that he has said. In-depth research of children. These affects our later life, our religious life in relationship to God as well. Especially autonomy. Autonomy is the time when a child begins to move its limbs, its body, feel some kind of freedom, feel some kind of separateness. Self would be called it. We'll come back to that, I hope. And if that doesn't take place, if the autonomy fails, what is created is shame and doubt. Shame and doubt. Shame has been discovered today as one of the most pervasive issues for human persons. Shame is different from guilt. Shame is you are made to feel humiliated in the presence of somebody else, not guilt. Guilt is something I do or I fail to do, but sometimes they are confused. Shame is you are just made to feel horrible, made to feel thoroughly embarrassed. And the child finds it difficult when the parents start teaching the child at such an early age and first time introduce the concept of shame. They may not have that concept, the emotion of shame or doubt, and self-doubt. Self-doubt becomes a serious issue in relationship faith, trusting God. When do we trust? The mother goes 13 years, she didn't have a child. She goes to Velangani and all these places and has a child, conceived. I'm very happy. Now child is 3-year-old. Right in front of their own house, meet with an accident and died. She's cursing God. She's cursing God. Why did you do this to me? That's the time she has a serious doubt about. Where does the doubt come from? When things go well, you have no doubt. When things go bad, you begin to doubt. Comes out of this self-doubt of that early stage. All of us may go through that at some stage or other, or maybe at some dose or other, some more, some less. But those are the issues that we have in this journey. Intuitive projective faith. I'm sure many of you remember when you were children. I remember very well, extremely well. The first faith you use is imitative faith. You just imitate what your parents do, the way they silence the class or the way they kneel or whatever they do. You begin to imitate faith, which is all right. That's the way we learn and that's no problem. Then comes a projective faith, something that projects. Do you have seen children or babies or children or infants rather? They are very fond of teddy bears or what do you call that? Any toy or whatever, or blankets or bed sheets or something. In the absence of the mother, in the physical absence of the mother, the child needs some kind of an object to remind that mother's presence or security. Are you with me? And they use teddy bears, or they will hug the teddy bear and sleep, or the bed sheet they will always do, whatever. These in psychology are called transitional objects. Correctly used. The child needs that space. The absence of the mother, the child needs to grow in order to deal with the insecurity. But the way the child deals with the insecurity by holding on to these objects. Are you with me on this? As we grow into adulthood, in religious life, in faith journey, we also use certain objects. Are you with me on that? Transitional objects. If the child can't sleep at 13 or 14 or 15 without holding on to the teddy bear, what will you say? Say this child can't go to bed without holding the teddy bear. She is 14-year-old now. What will you say? Correct? You want to say anything?
Childish.
Childish, correct. Immature, right. Why? In other words, the child has not found security within himself or herself. It depends on the outside object. That's why we call it not grown up. Immaturity is inside. Something like that can happen in our faith journey. As we grow, we need devotions. We need rituals. We need laws. We need dogmas. We need all the help we can get. Already some of you have got the point. So you are smiling, so I didn't need to mention. The question that you and I have to challengingly ask, what are these transitional objects that I am holding on to that is not allowing me to become an adult in faith? Adult faith. Childish faith, infant faith, childish faith, adolescent faith. Now we are talking adult faith. Very important word, adult. This adulthood was introduced also by Erickson. Adulthood is basically maturity. Maturity. I don't create dependencies on others. I don't. But I create interdependency. I need you, you need me, but I don't cling on to you and you don't cling on to me. The resurrected Jesus told Mary Magdalene, don't cling on to me. I need to go. That separation is necessary. That emptiness is necessary. That space is necessary. If you continue to hold on, then you are stagnating in your faith. Each one has to answer that question for himself or herself. How long do I need these transitional objects? You need. I'm not denying that. But how long? When do I let go? What are those transitional objects that I need to let go? So that I can walk the journey deeper and deeper. That is also part of the detachment process, part of the letting go process. So very important contribution psychology has made to us now, adult growth. So faith is an act of the whole person, cognitive, affective and behavioral. Or realistically, of the fragmented person. We are all fragmented. There are no perfect parents in the world. No perfect parents in the world. All parents have their limitations and they pass on their limitations to us. Although we like to glorify our father and mother as the best in the world. They may be best in the world, but they are not perfect. So because of their fragmentation, we also have picked up a lot of fragmentations. So it's a fragmented person's faith we are talking about, not a perfect person. But we are called to move into wholeness. So faith is a way of life. Very important. Faith is a way of life. It's dynamic and not static. Dynamic because it is constantly growing. It constantly has to grow. In contrast to the creed and the dogmas, with a static. So make the distinction carefully. Faith and personality. Faith is a process, and this process comes to shape and give character to personality. We use these phrases, we are the faithful people. What does that mean? I'm a trustworthy person, you can trust on me. How many times you have heard, or you have said, or I have said, or I have heard, I don't trust anybody? Have you not?
Yes.
When do we say that? Betrayed, or let down. I thought you will come to my help, but you never came. So where does that come from? Pardon? The experience of the pain. The experience of the pain being betrayed or let down. Left alone. But that pain, although I will say that, which is a real thing, that pain can be a medium to strengthen my faith. How? Pardon? Accept the pain. That's the difficult part, but we need to. Matthew Fox, although he was condemned by the church later, that doesn't mean all what he said is wrong. Matthew Fox said, when you accept pain as pain, pain ceases to be. It's only when you fight pain, it becomes worse. When you accept pain as pain. So that means, first of all, you must be able to identify what the pain is. You can't have an abstract pain. There is no abstract pain. Or there is no common pain. Because we are living in community, we don't say, we have stomach problem. You don't want to talk about your stomach or somebody else's one. Not common. The same way, identify where the pain is, what the pain is, what caused the pain. And then you accept the pain, it becomes life-giving. Then your faith is again deep. So that is why we say, when you go through struggles, when you go through crises after crises, there's a potential, there's a possibility for you to deepen your faith. Possibility. But there is also a possibility to get frustrated and get depressed. Both possibilities are there. That is why they say the word crisis is an opportunity. You can either way and die, or you can begin to accept and committed people. What is committed people? I'm committed to my journey. I'm committed to my journey. So when you and I make, this was not told to us at that time, I'm not blaming anybody for that. So a lot of information that we have today, our formators did not have. So we don't blame them. Today we have. And today if the formators don't give, we have to blame them. There's no doubt about it. So we have all the information, all the training, everything is possible. So if today's formators don't do that, they need to be blamed, not ours. They can. So when I say I'm committed, not make my vows. You don't make vows. You make money, or you make bread, or you make hoppers, but you don't make vows. You commit yourself. Commit yourself to what? The primary, correct. That's what I need to learn. The primary commitment is not to become an oblate or a origami system. The primary commitment is this journey through the congregation. Through the congregation. The medium. And medium is not the end. So where the vow comes? I don't become a religious because I made my vows. Because I am committed to this journey, and the ongoing conversation will lead me to listen, obedience, to love, chastity, to let go, emptying process. What we call poverty is not poverty, but it's simplicity of life. It falls in now. That's where the commitment comes. Same thing for married people. They need to be committed couples. That is why I like the ceremony that we have for marriage ceremony. The priest asks the couple, do you accept so and so? Very good word. Accept means what? Acceptance is love. Presupposes understanding. Understanding presupposes you listen. Listen presupposes you share. Sharing, listening, understanding, acceptance. That's the way a married couple have to grow. A lot of listening, a lot of share about their lives. Come to know each other. Understand the person. And then finally accept. So acceptance is not an emotion, it's a decision. In the same way, when I commit myself, it's a decision that I make. That I am committed to this journey. And out of that comes the trustworthiness as well as dependability. Barbara Reed Mason is a lay person who works a lot in the United Kingdom among lay people also. She works with many people, but ladies. She made this statement in the year of faith. Faith is a personal encounter with Christ the Lord, making oneself a disciple of Him. Very succinctly put, but very well put. So the discipleship makes you, makes the faith journey. But the discipleship to take up the cross. Whose cross? Not the Holy Cross. Whose cross? When Jesus said, take up your cross and come with me, what is the cross? Correct? What is the cross? All disciples of Christ. Yeah, what is the cross? Correct? Take up your cross and come with me. What is the cross? What is the cross? What is the cross, myself? You are letting go. You are detached. Every time you detach to something that you are attached to, there is pain. That pain is the cross. Please remember. Every time you detach yourself, let go to something that you are attached to. Attachments are good. The old spirituality was good in talking about detachment, but they misunderstood attachment. They thought attachment was bad. That's the wrong thing. Attachment is also good. Very positive. Unless I was attached to my mother, I would have grown. Unless I have a sense of belonging to my congregation, I wouldn't grow. So attachment is part of life, a necessary part of life. But when the time comes, the maturity comes, when the time comes, I'm able to detach. That detachment causes pain. That's the cross. And that's how you encounter Christ in the discipleship and friendship. The capacity for faith, this is a wonderful statement. The capacity for faith is limitless. That's what there is a deepening of faith. It has a transcending element. It pushes our frontiers and thus our identity is redrawn. Very important statement. The last book Dalai Lama wrote, he is writing another one, but the one that is published, the title of the book is Expansion of Love. That's the title. Expansion of love. And the very first paragraph he says, when I speak about love, I do not speak like a Tibetan. I do not speak like Dalai Lama. I do not speak like a Buddhist monk. I speak as a human person talking to another human person. That is transcending. Expansion of love. What does expansion of love means? No barriers. When Jesus said, love your enemies, I found it very difficult because I was having difficulty loving my friends. And he says, love your enemies. Too much. Now I understand. It's not loving my enemies. I have no enemies. Even others may see me as an enemy, but I have. That capacity, the faith journey has. That's what I want. That capacity to grow, the capacity to come to that point of view, those are the point the human person has. Following this book as named as pre-potentiation. I'm born with that capacity. I'm born with that capacity to rise up to this. And then we talk about identity. Very important word. My personal identity comes from my home, my father and mother, the little home they gave me, the little culture they introduced to me, the language they introduced to me, and the religion they introduced, and one by one comes. So they gave me a little structure to grow, very important. A structure to grow. These structures are very necessary. Very small structure they gave me to grow. Because as a child, I can't live in a large structure. You get me, right? As a child, I can only live in a very small structure. My parents gave me that. The culture gave me that. The religion gave me that. As I grow in this capacity, I need to expand these barriers. As I begin to grow in faith journey, I will expand these boundaries, not barriers, sorry, boundaries. These boundaries. Because I am growing from within. So each time I push these boundaries further and further, I am redefining my identity as a different person. So I was born into a small family. I was born with my parents. They gave me a language. They gave me a culture. But as I begin to grow in faith journey, I must transcend the language. I must transcend the religion. I must transcend the culture. That's the faith journey. Otherwise, I am limited. I am not expanding my boundaries. So every time I go through a conversion process, as I said earlier, encounter, we discover ourselves in an ongoing conversation with God. These boundaries are expanded. Have to. If I don't, then I am remaining as an immature person, psychologically as well as spiritually. So 15, 20, 30 years of religious life, 15, 20, 30 years of religious life, if my boundaries are restricted to a very small crowd of people, to my congregation, or to my culture, or to my language, or to my village, I am very much limited. Schulenberg, the theologian, I read that when I was in the second year theology, but it's powerful. He defined sin at that time. The refusal of God's call to become is sin. It struck me to be powerful and it makes a lot of sense now. When I refuse to expand these boundaries, that's where the sin comes. I don't want you to say yes to grow from within. Any questions here? So my identity has to expand. I can't remain the initial identity that my parents gave. I can't remain in the congregation's identity as an operator. It must grow wider and wider and wider. In other words, I create an inner space, very beautiful word in spirituality. I create an inner space large enough to welcome people, any people. Any question or any comments or any clarification to
But when you think about these boundaries for today, in the modern context, there's a lot of development and science and a lot of information technology and everything. Your boundaries were
restricting more and more. That's the sad part. That's why I put the global context in the local context. what should happen is not happening. Xenophobia, for example. They say Marshall McLuhan is a communication specialist in the 70s who said the global village, because he was talking about the television. The world comes into your room, so global village. But today that village is breaking. More and more hatred for foreigners in all countries. So what technology ideally should do is not doing. What religion ideally should do is not doing. That's where we got it. The crisis is precisely that. We say the world is a village. It's not. When you go for visa, you know. You know how you are treated in these embassies. They don't want to know who you are. And with the Sri Lankan passport, even if you have a visa, immigration 3 times they look at you. Because I am having a foreign visa passport, you know. 3 times they look at you. I look at the other side. And they ridicule it. I was going through Manchester airport one day. There was not much of a crowd. I was evening flight. I gave my passport. I was going through every page. A lot of visas stamped, including UK visa. And then after he asked me, can you speak English? So I said, I think I'll be able to manage to answer the questions in English. After a long flight, then he asked, have you been previously to the UK? He has seen the damn passport. Then I looked at him. I said, excuse me, you look a very young man. I think before you were born, I was here. Just threw the passport and read it. They just want to ridicule that side. With all the technology and with all what we are talking, this is where the world is more restricting and constricting than expanding. Even the church. The quota fidei should have said, ideally should have said, that all people come to Christ. It didn't. It still speaks about through baptism, expansion is not. But Jesus' message is very clear. We are all. God created oneness. The human persons brought divisiveness. Look at the world map. The way countries are divided. Very obvious. Very obvious is artificial division. We did not divide the land, we divided the sea. This is our sea and this is Indian Sea. The poor fisherman doesn't know where the line is. He is constantly caught. He can't see the damn line. We didn't stop there. We divided the skies. You can't fly over our skies. Where is your sky? And I'm going to tell an incident. I was on a KLM flight from Amsterdam to Colombo. Those days when KLM was flying. And they served drinks and everybody was enjoying. There was only one screen for movie, not like now. Then suddenly the air hostess came and started correcting him. So the guy next to me was irritated. He was enjoying his whiskey. He said, why are you doing this? The air hostess said, please, this is exactly what happened. I'm not excited. She said, we are flying over Saudi Arabia, so you can't have liquor. 36,000 miles. The chap got angry, he started laughing, you know. This is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. This is our life. Divisiveness. And it continues. So the biggest challenge for religious you and me as we walk this journey to see that this capacity to expand grows. So identity expands. Beyond ethnic barriers, language barriers, geographical barriers, religion barriers, religious congregational barriers. Limitless, that's what he said, limitless. What happened? Humans have evolved with pre-potentiated, that word is from James Fowler, pre-potentiated capacities that underlie the structuring activities of faith and equip us for our ontological callings. This is the ontological calling. wholeness, fullness, completeness, oneness. To relate this to a partnership with God, partnership with God. The other term we are using today very forcefully is God is calling us to co-create a new world. We are not instruments. This is an instrument. This is an instrument. This laptop is an instrument. I'm not. I'm created in the image of God. Unity is within me. It's there, the capacity is there. And God is calling us to co-create a new world, a kingdom. What is the kingdom? A world of justice, peace and love. Self has been constituted in fundamental ways by this ontological vocation, which of course humans may embrace or struggle against. So the ontological call is there, but the human person can resist. Can resist. And we do resist all the time, or sometimes now. If you stagnate, Teresa of Avila said, very clearly said, very well articulated, even if you have a faith experience, she didn't say faith experience, she said ecstasy. Even if you have an ecstasy, don't hold on to that experience. Let your journey continue. When you hold on to that experience, then you start building churches and temples. And stay there. Let us stay. It's a wonderful experience. Peter said that in the Transfiguration. He had a wonderful experience. So what did he say? Let us stay here. But Peter is a practical man. I have said this before. He knew community life is very difficult. So he said three different. He is very practical. You must have heard of Pete Griffin, the great Benedictine, who has done some wonderful living and wonderful writing. Faith is our capacity for transcendence. Faith is our capacity to transcend our selfishness, our self-definitions, our self-borders that we have created for ourselves. This means that it's our ability to go beyond the ego and the self-centered priorities that our ego blindly advances and defends. This ego is a big problem. It's a very big problem. Now, if all of you walk out right now when I am talking, what will happen to you? But I may get very angry. I may kill Confucius. Or have you on them thing. Or I also can say, thank you very much, I need some rest now. The way I react, the ego. If you examine your life, most of the time, the ego is our problem. The ego that you have built up. Me, myself. And with that power comes worse. That's the biggest problem. Faith is our capacity to recenter ourselves in another, in someone we love, finally in God, who is the otherness in which we lose and find ourselves. There's a beautiful paradoxical statement that Jesus made. I didn't understand it for a long time. If you lose life, you will find life. If you find life, you will lose life. What does that mean? It's not a contradictory statement, it's a paradoxical statement. What does that mean? We have already seen that in different ways. What does that mean, the statement of Jesus? Pardon? If you hold on to the attachments, if you hold on to the attachment thinking that this is all life is all about, you will lose the real life. If you let go, then you will find the real life. Beautiful, beautiful statement. So faith and identity. Every identity crisis could have a religious significance. It is an opportunity to reorganize the self by going through a conversion of both experiences. It's a time to make new commitments, and faith as relationship is a form of ultimate commitment. identity crisis. When the Tamils go through the problem that we are going through today, in spite of the fact that a lot of things are happening in Geneva, the headlines in the local newspapers are very clear. 15,000 Sinhalese people should be resettled immediately. With a, what shall I say, with an arrogance they are acting, not only against us, but also starting against the Muslims. And how does a Tamil feel after 60 years of struggle, 30 odd years of a war that has destroyed us left, right and center? The culture is being destroyed. As a group we are into, if you put all factors together, you can make an easy case for genocide, which I have made in that response to Vimal Tilmana's book. How will a Tamil feel? We had a priest with us of late. There's no secret, so I can talk about it. But I talked to him very recently also. He's dead, I didn't know. His name was Ramanathan. You remember him?
Yes.
Yes. He got to a problem in 77 and he felt very humiliated. So he changed his name to Ramanayaka. Now that is an identity crisis. After a long time I met him at our Colombo house. He's changed a lot. So I said, wait, I know you, wait, just give me some time. Then I said, hey, you are Ramanayaka, right? He said, no. I said, no, I'm not sure. No, I'm Ramanathan. Why? Now he is living in United States. In that security, he has gone back to his real identity. So that kind of identity crisis for any human person. You follow what I'm saying? But every identity crisis that we go through is an opportunity to redefine our faith. Any crisis for that matter. You come out of the crisis, come out of the pain, work through the pain, accept the pain, and recommit yourself to the journey, your identity begins to expand. That's what it means. Any problem, any crisis, any issue. All human problems can be resolved by human beings, and that's good news. So faith is an unfolding of the core identity of the human person. It is the central value. Why I am speaking about identity is this. The identity that I have as a Tamil or as an Oblate, as a Catholic, all that puts in, is an external identity. It's an external identity. External identities can be removed. The congregation can fire me. The church can excommunicate me. The Tamils can say, you are not a Tamil, whatever they want to say. Externals can be removed. But the core identity is not depends on the externals. That identity is what we call the real identity, or in other words, the real self is in God. So when I make this journey, I am honestly rediscovering my real identity. That's why we call it inward journey. The reason for inward journey is, I am really, because if I want to explain this, diagrams are always bad. Okay, what last God created me in God's image. This is love. As soon as I was conceived and then born, I'm going up. That is, I'm learning the ways of the world ways. I'm going far away from that core. This is called the outward journey. The power, the politics, the popularity, jealousy, all the psychosocial disorders, everything on layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. I'm going far away, disconnected. Something strikes me, the crisis, or something I heard in a sermon or a talk or a film that I saw. Something powerfully strikes me, and then I begin to reflect. Then I say the inward journey. So what is the inward journey? Remove this layer by layer. layer by layer, like peeling an onion, you remove them layer by layer, the power, the popularity, the ego, the selfishness, the unresolved greed, the anger, the jealousy, all those issues, you number them. Remove them one by one, you come to the core, C-O-R-E. There you find the real God, the real divinity, the real self, the real identity. That's our destination. That's called mysticism. I'm explaining in very simple words, but diagrams can be misleading. I'm saying that also. That coming to the core, being in love is mysticism. The faith journey is destination. If you want to call that destination, mysticism. But I don't know. Spirituality is in the uncertainty of the future. When I remove one layer, I don't know what I will discover next. I don't know. This is just explanation. That's why it's bad to explain these things. You have to walk the journey. It can be misleading in that sense. Any question on this? Simple way of explaining. So we have layers. All of us have. I hope you understand what I mean by layers. Unresolved grief, for example. I have not grief for my loss. Or I have not my jealousies, my anger, my pride, the grudges that I hold on. Something happened in the novitiate 25 years later, and still holding on to a grudge, celebrating the sublimity of my grudge. All those outward journey. I have gone far away from the core, from God, like the prodigal son. I have distanced myself. I have disconnected myself. You remove layer by layer. That's a letting go. That's a detachment. And once you go, you begin to have the inner freedom. The inner freedom. We are all caught up in an inner slavery. We are slave to ourselves. Nobody is free, and we cause the slavery. Because our desires and our popularity and all that, those are the inner slaveries. You remove them, you come to the real inner freedom, which is mysticism. The faith journey is precisely that. Coming back, coming home. You've gone far away. Faith means an unpredictable journey. Unpredictable. You don't know the next step. That's the problem. You don't know. Nobody can give you a map. If any spiritual director gives you a map, very dangerous. Run far away from that person. John of the Cross wrote 33 paragraphs on obstacles to spiritual journey. 30 paragraphs for the spiritual director and 3 for the devil. So who is the biggest obstacle? Spiritual guide. 30 for spiritual director, only 3 for the devil. Very dangerous. John Maine is a Benedictine who was the British diplomatic corps. Then he met a Swami in Malaysia, and then when he finished his diplomatic work, he went back to Britain, joined the Benedictines, and he is known today as the founder of International Meditation Centers, doing wonderful things he did. This is what he said. The essence of all poverty consists in the risk of annihilation. The fear of death is basically that. I don't know how many of you have taken some time to lie in a coffin and see how the experience is. I have a few times. But I want to get up and see who other people came to my funeral. Just to see who other people came. Anyway, the frightening experience is this. What is next? Where will I go? Is it to nothingness? Or is there a heaven? If that heaven is there, what is it like? We don't know. That's what he says. The worst poverty, it consists in the risk of annihilation. Would I be just nothing? This is the leap of faith. I'm sure you heard the phrase, leap of faith, from ourselves to the other. In that leap, there are no steps. In that leap, there are no phases of life. In that leap, there are no spiritual guides. That's why it's so difficult. That's the dark night that we all go through. Apparently, Jesus went through at Calvary. This is the risk involved in all loving for that man. Abraham, we call him the father of faith. I'm coming to an end. What is done to it? Are you tired?
No.
Why are you not tired? That means you are not listening. Fast asleep. Shall we take a stretch break? A stretch break, you don't go out of the hall. Just for the chairs.
One question for as you are just speaking, that we can understand that you are going through very deep contemplation and emptiness and deep reflection inside. But Buddha said, the real thing is the end of suffering. He said the enlightenment is the end of suffering, and he didn't say anything further than that. That enlightenment, where you don't know what is that. But he said it's all end of suffering.
End of suffering, enlightenment is in our language mysticism. Same. In other words, you are totally freed yourself, internal freedom, which Buddha experienced through meditation. When he started searching, because he saw suffering and he was very protected in the palace, very protected. He never went out. The father never allowed him to get out. One day when he sneaked out, he found suffering, death and all that, and he got very disturbed. So he started going to yogis at that time. They were Hindus, they were Buddhists at that time, and asked a lot of questions and practiced yoga and all that, but he was research. Finally, he went and unfortunately sat under a boat tree. The coconut tree would have been better, but boat tree. Now we can't have a boat tree anymore. And there he reached enlightenment. What does that mean? I was going to come a little later. The only prayer that can lead us in this journey deeper is meditation. No other. I mentioned John Main. John Main discovered it and talking to the Swami in Malaysia, and then he went back to, and then he joined the Benedictine monastery. There he struggled because the Benedictine monastery wouldn't allow him to meditate. Can you believe that? The Benedictine monastery wouldn't allow him to meditate. So, under holy obedience, he has to go through that suffering as well, because there is all singing, all this beautiful singing, of course. Then he discovered, he went and started doing a lot of research with the old, what we call desert fathers and mothers, and discovered John Cassian. John Cassian is considered a very big mystic in the old tradition. He speaks about meditation already in the 4th century, in the Catholic Church, in the Catholic tradition. He already speaks. So he rediscovered that, and then he started having meditation centers all over the place internationally. There are many centers in UK itself. A lot of people come. A lot of people come, just sit and meditate. What is this meditation? Not thinking. No images. No images. No words. No emotions. No planning. No fantasy. That's what Buddha's thing. That's what Vipassana teaches them. When you go to Vipassana center, you won't see any image anywhere. Nothing. Because all images are distracting. All words are distracting. All fantasies are distract. That's the idea. So that enlightenment that Buddha speaks and the mysticism that language we use is experience the same. Words are different. That's why when we use jargon, then we use our jargon that is known to us, and then we speak same. We call Abraham the father of faith. What does that mean? He didn't say the credo. Did Abraham say, I believe in God the Father Almighty, creator of the world? He never said that. He was not asked of. He never said that. He was asked to leave the country, the hindred and your father's house, for a country which I shall show. The symbolism is this. Venturing into the unknown is spirituality. That's the symbolism. If you are all the time in the known territory, security, you are talking religion. Venturing into the unknown. I don't know. That's where the faith comes. Faith in the sense of trust. I trust. I trust the process. You know, when we do this group work, group animation work, or the counseling work, one of the things that we say, trust the process. The process. The word process came from quantum physics. Then it came to psychology. Now everybody is listening. Trust the process. It will lead you. But I don't know the destination. Venturing into the unknown is spiritual. Jesus ventured into the unknown, not only the desert experience, even afterwards. Although Mary said yes at the Annunciation, the future was not known. She was frightened of the future. That's why she debated and discussed and all within herself. Why me? And what are the consequences of this journey be? So that phrase is very important. Venturing into the unknown. That journey. In his old age, 75, Abraham was called to leave everything behind and go into an uncertain land. He made that journey in trust. He trusted. Two kinds of trust, don't forget, not trust in God alone. He trusted himself. Very important. He trusted himself. See, sometimes it's happened to me in my counseling experience. Some people come. I don't know them and they don't know me, at least apparently. They pour out their life. Completely pour out. Amazing. People who know you come in stages. People who don't know you come and pour it out. So at the end of the session I asked, how did you trust me to tell this story the way you said it? They say, no, I trusted you. Then I give back the credit to them by saying, no, you trusted yourself to take the risk to trust me. You follow me? You trusted yourself enough to take the risk. In every trusting, there is a risk. There is no spirituality without risk. That's the insecurity and uncertainty. Moses led the people of Israel to the promised land, a land of uncertainty. He saw in mind's eye, he saw in his mind's eye far away, that's where the promised land is. He led the people, he struggled, he didn't want to. He knew this is a troublesome place. And he went through the journey and there was a desert experience, dark night, desert experience, long time. The people forgot about their journey, they started murmuring and shouting, why did you bring us out? The flesh pots of Egypt were far better, although we were unfree. Although we were unfree, the flesh pots of Egypt is far better. This so-called freedom, which we don't have yet, and we are struggling. Moses did not know what to do. He met a Jesuit priest and went for a 30-day retreat. Someday he got lost. But what is important is, when he came back, what did he find? What did he find? The people have created their own gods, small g. They completely forgot about the journey, about the God who called them. The challenge for you and me, my dear sisters and fathers and brothers, is this. Who are these gods you have created on this journey? the small, small gods you have created. And John of the Cross says very clearly, unless you kill these dogs, you will never find the real God. Did I say dogs? It must be a Freudian slip, but a good one. Unless you kill these gods, you will never find the real God. Exactly the same. Because when the journey becomes long, we want something tangible, something to taste, something pleasurable, some blankets, some teddy bears. We can't manage without those teddy bears. Old people, 65, 70, teddy bears. Golden Jubilee, Silver Jubilee celebration over after hours, teddy bears. Come on, wake up, wake up. If you don't, you will mislead others. That's a sad thing. If you are sleeping with your own teddy bear in your own room, no problem. But then you bring these teddy bears outside and give to the people as well. Blind lead in the. So this is a season of Lent. The biggest message of the season of Lent is conversion. Come back. Come back to Yahweh. Come back to God. Kill these teddy bears. Kill these blankets and bed sheets that you are so comfortable with. They give security, yes. Yes, no doubt. In that killing there is an emptiness which is hard to face. In that killing, in every letting go, between attachment and detachment, there is a space, it's an emptiness. That emptiness is painful. But you and I have to go through that. So I have spoken a lot about religion. Is religion bad? Not necessary. Not necessary. Religion must lead to spirituality. Religion is a means. Religious life is a means. The ecclesiastical church is a means. The dogmas are means. Devotions are means. And means are means. Don't make them end. Simple message. So if religion leads to spirituality, that religion is fine. But if the religion becomes an obstacle to spirituality, that religion must be questioned and challenged exactly as Jesus did. I repeat, religion ideally must lead to spirituality. If that religion does not lead to spirituality, your journey, your faith journey towards God, that religion must be challenged seriously, as Jesus did from the word God. There are people, on the other hand, who are already walking a faith journey without a religion. Now, for example, I see people in the meditation centers who come, they have no religion. They just come to the meditation center. But coming into the meditation center, they discover their spirituality and they may join a religion. That is also possible. But they know how to live that religion. Are you with me? So Bernard Lonergan, I am coming back to your very first question. Bernard Lonergan said, when you go through the conversion experience, you hold that experience, reflect on that experience, what is this experience, what does this means to me, you are producing theology. You are writing your own spirituality. That can be a help to others, may not be a help to others. So all these so-called scriptures must be continuously written through the faith experience of people, great people who have lived an experience. There's nothing wrong. But the question was asked in the break, a good question. Imitating people like Teresa of Avila, John of the Cross, don't ever imitate anyone. Not even Teresa of Avila or John of the Cross, because you are not Teresa of Avila and you are not John of the Cross. But their writings can inspire. Their life can challenge. Two things. Their writings can inspire, their life can challenge. I may find some common factors, but imitate means you are going to put on a false self again, those layers, and you pretend you are somebody else. Dangerous. Take up your cross, not my cross. Very clear. So we were told at one time, imitate Maria Goretti, or that Goretti, or this Goretti, or it doesn't. We know today much better. Personalities are very different. Every saint is unique, canonized or not canonized. Every person is unique. Every mystique is unique. But the experience can be simple. So they can challenge, they can inspire, but don't imitate. Your life is uniquely yours. That is why you need to write your autobiography. You need to write your autobiography. That's the best book you can write. From the birth onwards. A lot of things we remember. A lot of things our parents would have told us, but we don't remember. They would have told us, definitely, in our conversation with them. Right. I always say for two reasons you must write your autobiography. Number one is that's the best book that you have ever written. That's the best book you can take for your retreats. Number two, when your case is taken for canonization, the case is finished. So your congregation does not need unnecessary money to do research and write. So at least for the second reason, write to the first reason. So we use faith as noun for religion and faithing as verb for spirituality. Because as noun it is static, as verb it is dynamic. Is this clear? A person who joins a religion ideally must walk towards spirituality. A person who may not have any religion has gone into this journey and may join a. But religion is a means, not an end. If a religion does not have, I've already said that, if a religion does not help to foster dead spirituality, spirituality is dead. The journey of faith, that religion needs to be challenged. If a religion becomes a block to one's own faith journey, that religion needs to go or reform. That's why the ecclesiastical church, the institutional church, must be constantly reformed. It was the greatest pope in my life, John the 23rd. It was his intuition, the voice, the inner voice. Henry named it as the inner voice. He could not give any theological reason why he needed a Vatican Council. He couldn't. When Ottaviani challenged him, he's a great theologian, give me theological reasons for calling Vatican II, he said, I don't know, but there needs to be. And he stood by it, because deep down he heard it. I used to say, your spiritual director may mislead you. But if you are tuned into your inner self, tuned in, as the life process, if you are tuned into your inner self, your inner voice will never mislead you. But you can cheat yourself, you talk to yourself, intrapsychic dialogue, and say my inner voice says. You can cheat yourself. The spiritual director can mislead you, but if you are tuned into your inner self, as a habit, it will never mislead you. Ideal example in our lifetime is John the 23rd. Great pope. The simple way he said was, the church is suffocating inside, it needs some fresh air, open some windows. John Paul II came in and said, too many windows got opened, close a few. Benedict XVI said, in the first place, the windows should not have been there. Jesus challenged the religion of Israel, its rules, its rituals, the external practices. He broke away from the old covenant and established a new one without any doubt. The Gospels are very clear. You don't need to be a scripture scholar to know that. And create a new covenant. Because the old covenant is full of rules and regulations. They have missed the bus. They have put the cart before the horse. It needs to be reformed. So any religious congregation, religion ideally paves the way to faith journey, a personal pilgrimage towards a connectedness, from disconnectedness towards an empty awareness. Empty awareness, that's the phrase. It's an emptiness, but you are aware of the emptiness. I like that phrase. Consciousness, contemplation and mysticism. Thus religion is a means to a profoundly deeper purpose or the end. Empty awareness. Deeply rooted, widely connected. Those are some of my sayings. Deeply rooted, widely connected. If you are deeper and deeper rooted, going to the core, you are also widely related to people. Faithful to the spouse. These are the conditions. These are dichotomies. You can be faithful to your spouse, but you exploit the poor. That's a dichotomy. A dualism, a metaphysical dichotomy. Faithful to the religion, but you lie and cheat at work. That is dualism. So each one of you and myself, we ask the question, how dualistic am I in my day-to-day life? In the chapel I pray, sweet Jesus, be thou my love. You come out and do all the horrible things, the gossips, dualism, absolute dualism. Sometimes we don't know. When you are not aware of the dualism, you are bordering on sickness, pathology. Which is worse. Abraham Maslow said that very strong. Very strong. It's a metaphysical dichotomy leads to pathology. And we can easily, especially with an awareness, you lack awareness. Hey, I'm doing this. You catch yourself doing that, you challenge yourself to grow. If you don't, you're falling into it more and more. And this is happening in our day-to-day life. Faith and contemplation, need of the hour, call to consciousness. I don't know how many of you know that Czechoslovakian president, Viktor Havel, he was an activist first, political activist, fighting for human rights. He was imprisoned. Then he wrote a letter from the prison to the president of Czechoslovakia, which started the Velvet Revolution. And then eventually he became a president. And he was invited to the United States. When the United States wants to honor somebody, some big leader, they will always bring the two houses together to address together, the Senate and the Congress. That's their way of honoring people. So he got that honor to address both houses, Senate and the Congress. This is what he said. The need of the hour in the world is consciousness. The need of the hour in the world is consciousness. Translated as contemplation. Parker Palmer, a Quaker, he took that up and wrote the book almost on that. The need of the hour is contemplation. Not contemplation. I also say this, I hope the monastery people won't be angry with me. Sometimes there are no contemplatives in the contemplative congregation. And there are no mystics in the monasteries. Because they have all got into this rut of vocal prayer, unfortunately. This came from the 5th century onwards. And they have all got into that, unfortunately. So contemplative means, and this John Main whom I was speaking about, he started a movement called Mystics Without Monasteries. That's the movement he started. Mystic with a monastic wall. You don't need a monastic wall to be a mystic. You don't need a contemplative house to be a contemplative. Consciousness, the need of the hour. That's why I got interested in this faith here, not because of anything else. And mystics in the marketplace. What is the marketplace? With the people. I have to tell Nagada people, or the Rosarians, they won't listen to me. Hey, your style is 15th century. That time monasticism was considered like this. You should know, if you are a real contemplative, when to come to the marketplace and bear witness, and when to get back to the monastery. We should know, as active members, when to be in the monastery and when to go to the marketplace. In other words, both have to balance. You can't have a contemplative life inside the monastery alone. That is not possible. In our understanding, in the Christian understanding of mysticism, if you have a mystical experience, a faith experience, come to the marketplace, proclaim. You need to be a prophet. Meditation, John May. Meditation is the prayer of faith because we have to leave ourselves behind before the other appears and without a pre-packaged guarantee that the other will act. Don't expect. They tell us in Vipassana, don't expect anything to happen. If you expect something to happen, your meditation is already ruin. So that means you're expecting something. Just be there. That's what someone said that in Bloom, I think. Those who wait also pray. Wait. You don't know the hour or the time, Jesus said. You don't know the hour or the time. What time do you have a faith experience? Nobody knows. That's the patience. That's the dry night. That's the dark night. Lawrence Freeman is a person who followed John Main, continuing his work. We are meant to come to this limit of our intellectual understanding because this is the point where the contemplative consciousness awakens. Contemplative consciousness awakens. The crowd of unknowing says we can never know God by thought and only by love, not by thought. Unfortunately, in Christian theology, we know too much about God. That's our problem. In Christian theology, we know too much about God, volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes. About the Trinity, about the Day Owner, everything we know. And that's the problem. So Augustine said, if you can understand it, it is in God. If you think you have studied about God, then that's not, that is something else. That's something that you have produced, and that's the atheist denial. Lawrence Freeman. Faith leads to vision of things unseen. It verifies the existence of realities invisible to the conceptual and visual mind alone. This contemplative experience of spiritual vision is the fruit of the life of faith. It opens up a new sense, a more subtle spiritual sense, in which we are able to register and recognize patterns, presence, associations that we are unable to perceive. This is the final thing. A faith experience. What is a faith experience? It can be very simple. Sometimes the experience that I had in CPE, which I will never forget, is there's a knot inside you. Suddenly you discover it is untied. You understand the knot? The rope, the knot. Suddenly untied. There's a little freedom. That's a faith experience. Any inner freedom that you experience is a faith experience. From any slavery, by letting go of power, by letting go of something that you are attached to, and you feel, hey, there's an inner peacefulness, that's faith experience. Don't expect something big to happen. How do you discover it's a faith experience? Now there are people who say, I'm born again. I have no problem with that. There may be, I don't know. But are these elements present? That's the question. If there is a faith experience, if there is a born again experience, are these elements present? Number one, it's a conversion experience. That means a change in your life. It's a call to interiorize. You interiorize that faith experience, personalize. You reflect on that experience and personalize that experience. It's a call to integrity, authenticity, very important. If you are going through a faith experience, you are called to integrity. Your life is integral. What does that mean? Your word and your action, your prayer and your life, your speech and your emotion, they are together. In other words, you are not divided within. There is no dualism. There is no metaphysical dichotomy. It's a call to existentiality, reality. What is the reality? What is the global context? What is the local context? In which kind of country I am living? What kind of people amidst I am living? You are brought to reality, existentiality. You can't live inside a monastery. You can't. It's not Christian. But as matter Thich Nhat Hanh, I don't know if you have heard of Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk who is a mystic who lives in Bordeaux, very close to the Bodhi family Bordeaux. They call a village, Plum Village. Next time when you go to Bordeaux, please visit that place. It's a huge big meditation center. It's very popularly known, internationally known. He's a mystic, but he fights for peace. Anywhere there is trouble, he is there. Thomas Merton, our own. He always demonstrates come against the nuclear war. Very much involved in the Cuban crisis. Dalai Lama, fighting for the freedom of the Tibetan people. So these are modern mystics who are telling us that they can't live inside the monastery. They have to come to the marketplace. Existentiality. It's a call to radicality, change. It's a call to change, reform. Whatever that needs to be reformed, you are there. You are a prophet. Who is a prophet? Chandra Schneider, the famous woman theologian, fantastic person. She defined the prophet in very simple terms. 3 qualities. Number 1, cry with those who are crying. The ability to empathize, compassion. Number 2, when something is wrong, Chandra Schneider spoke about a prophet in very simple terms, and she said 3 things. Number 1 is the ability to cry with those who are crying, the empathy, compassion. Number 2, to give voice to the voiceless. And number 3, when something is wrong, say it is wrong. No compromise. No compromise. When something is obviously wrong, say it's wrong. That's the prophet. The one who can cry with those who are crying, give voice to the voiceless, and when something is obviously wrong, say it is wrong. Don't cover up. Don't cover up. The church has covered up a lot of evils in the past few years, 60 years or 70 years. Congregations have gone bankrupt paying money. And it's still going on. Because we didn't have the courage to say it is wrong. If Benedict XVI will go into history as a great pope for resigning, no doubt. No doubt. He will go into history as a great pope who had the courage to resign after 600 years. But he will also go down, unfortunately, as a pope who covered up evil. Very unfortunate. All this must have paid on him. Sad man, really. All this must have paid him before he resigned. He needs our prayers. But both things go down. Same with John Paul II. So we do the same in our own context. When do we cover up? How many murders do you and I covered up? Because tigers killed, we covered up. When the army killed, we defend. We are accused. When tigers kill, we defend. Killing is killing. Murder is murder. We cover up. And we pay the price. Why blood is thicker than water, they say, no emotion. There's no problem. What is wrong is wrong. I wrote in the response to Liman's book, all those who murdered must be brought to books. All those. He's trying to excuse some people now. He's a moral theologian, teaching moral theology in the National Seminary in Rome. And he got away with that book, nobody challenged him except a small group here. Discussed it, I don't know what they're doing, they were supposed to like. And then finally, it's a call to creative fidelity. What is creative fidelity? I may fail in this journey. I'm a human person. I have my limitations and weaknesses. I have the need to stay for a while. I have a need to stagnate. I have a need to hold on to the blankets and teddy bears. Those are the stagnations. But creative fidelity means, okay, challenge yourself, catch yourself, continue the journey. That's what creative fidelity means, as I understand. You know the story. The woman. Trust. The message of that woman is trust. Unwavering trust. You know what happened to poor Peter? At least Peter had the courage to get onto the water. I did not. What happened to Peter? Halfway he lost trust. He started boldly, then he lost self-confidence. What does that mean? He lost trust in himself and therefore trust in God. Faith and fear are connected. The small conclusion, I don't go into details. The angel said to Mary, Mary, do not be afraid. Faith and fear are very connected. Faith in the sense of trust. When fear overtakes, trust goes away. Mary had a fear. Fear of what? what are the consequences of this call be? You will be able to say to some extent, what are the possible consequences? Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he began to feel sadness and anguish. Anguish is anxiety. The mother of all emotions, or if you don't like the word mother, the father of all emotions is anxiety. Some psychologists call it fear. But there is fear in anxiety, anxiety in fear, so it doesn't matter. So the fathers say anxiety and mothers say fear, it doesn't matter. My soul is sorrowful to the point of death. What is this sorrow? Right? That's why Jesus prayed, let this child go away from me. Don't worry. So fear is the biggest obstacle to trust, to faith. If there is an obstacle, that's the biggest obstacle. But John tells us, in love there is no room for fear, but perfect love drives out fear. What is this love? Acceptance. When you accept your frailty, when you accept your limitation, when you accept your weakness, yes, this is me. This is my brokenness. This is my dividedness. When you accept, the fear goes. That's what he means by love casts fear. This is a very interesting incident in the life of Jesus in Nazareth. He could not perform any more miracles there because of they did not accept him. They did not trust him. You heard about the mustard seed. I was wondering what this mustard seed was. Jesus said that, no, what is that? What is it? He must have been very fond of mustard seed. Number of times he talked about mustard seed. What did he say? If you have a faith of a mustard seed? I searched for a long time. What is the mustard seed faith about? The conclusion I came to is this. When I was born, the element of trust is implanted in us as the divinity is implanted. The core is divinity, love, is there. That's the mustard seed. It has the capacity to grow, capacity, potentiation. So what is this mountain? I'm sure all of us have mustard seed, but no mountain is going anywhere. What is this mountain? I came to the conclusion, this mountain is inside. Jesus spoke in parables, not to moralize the parables. So this mountain is inside. What is this mountain? These are the mountains. These are the mountains that I have created in order not to go there. So if the mustard can get in touch with the mustard seed to grow, these mountains can be. Makes a lot of sense. Don't stand in front of some big mountain and say, I have faith, move. The mustard seed I meant to explain. So faith, hope and love comes together very beautifully in this journey. Initially I said, no, Erickson's thing, if there is more trust, there is hope. What is the hope? There's the future, I can depend. That's the hope. And ultimately, it's all acceptance, which is love. So the three virtues that we talk about comes very well in the modern way of looking at it as our journey. So let your faith move mountains, the mountains of blocks within me that I have created. I have created myself. Therefore I can remove. For that I need the trust. And build the trust and walk the journey. Thank you very much. Any questions or clarifications or anything that you want to ask? I'm supposed to have finished my second presentation by now.
These mystics were there now. Some of the mystics also in the church are considered as a sort of a heretics. Maybe John of the Cross also a certain way he was suspected by the church. What happened really?
I met William Johnston. One of the benefits of being a provincial was to go to Japan. I was not so much interested in knowing Japan, I was more interested in meeting William Johnston because he was in Japan. So I knew a friend in Hoxton Hall earlier and from somewhere other find out. Anyway, I got the appointment. I only asked for half an hour because I thought he's a busy man in Loyola College. He gave me 2 hours and 2.5 hours and a lunch as well. So more than what I bargained for. Why I wanted to meet him was I had lots of questions to ask. Lots of questions. Number 2, I want to know whether I am in the right direction. Otherwise I don't want to mislead other people. So I sat at his feet and asked a lot of questions. He has a very interesting way of answering the questions. Finally he asked me a question. That's the question. He said, Father, tell me why the church does not encourage mystics. Spontaneously I said, Father, that is very simple. Because the mystics can't be controlled by the church. He smiled and said, thank you, Father. They are free people, Father. They are free people. So they won't be rebels. A mystic will never be a rebel. A rebel has a problem. That means he is rebelling against anything and everything. If the pen falls from the table, he will rebel. If it doesn't fall also, he will. So he doesn't know what he is rebelling against. A revolutionary is not that. A revolutionary is a person who has gone through life, he has come out and said, these things have to be changed. Jesus was a mystic and a revolutionary. Dalai Lama is seen as a big enemy of the whole of China, but he is a mystic. Thich Nhat Hanh can't go to Vietnam, but can go to any part of the world. He is a mystic. Thomas Merton was not understood at all by his fellow monks. I had a privilege of working with the Benedictines in Rome for 6 years, 3 months, 9 days each year for each year. Yes, they had a 3 months program. Whenever I quoted Thomas Merton, they didn't like it. So one fine day I asked the Benedictine, why is that you people never quote Thomas Merton? He don't care. Why? I know the reason. Because he was very honest, very sincere. So sincere and honest, even the last stage of his life, he wrote about his temptation, falling in love with a nurse, and how he disturbed. That part they didn't like. So mystics are people who are free, who are transparent. So the established church finds it. But they are nuts. Sometimes we think mystics are nuts, they are not. They are down to reality. Down to reality. The prophets. Any other? I know you must be very hungry now. So I don't think I have another. I have 2 more presentations, but I don't think I'll bore you to death. I think the essence of faith I have given. Maybe in the afternoon when they come, we'll have an open session, questions, answers, contributions, other people's contribution, whatever. Is that all right? More interaction.
But you said something about the erections, other part.
I have, but I don't know whether.
So you can deal with a little bit of that to help us.
We'll see how the sleeping time goes. Have a good lunch.
What time we get to come for?
12:45. 1:45. 1:45.
150.
1:45.
141. Please say it loud.
Shall we come around 1:45? That's the hold. Thank you.
It's already got
Tomorrow?
Welcome back after delicious lunch. I hope. Faster, of course, delicious. Thank you so much. Now this common forum will be utilized to elect the new committee members from each congregations. And then out of those committee members, or even if we need, out of the committee members, we can elect a president, secretary and treasurer for the new year. So now we are here to elect from each congregations two members for the committee. If the congregation is like having one community here in Jaffna, there can be one. But if the need is there, two can be in the committee. So now this is up to each congregation to propose and second the members for the committee. This committee is having the duty of meeting before the program, before every program, to discuss about the proceedings and to implement the decisions taken by the committee. And these members from the provinces, from the congregations, will be the coordinating persons between the committee and then the congregations. So here now we invite each congregation to elect two members each. Thank you.